And we are back. The first match of the night is well and truly in the books, and only 3 more to go. Not just for this play day, but for Oceanic Nationals, period. We then head to playoffs next week, so still a fair bit on the line, still shake-ups to be had, Raven. And that matchup, to be honest, it did go the way we were hoping it to. A 7-5 close match in the favour of Wildcard.
Yeah, gotta love the close matches. It's what this season has been built off. And to wrap it up, Okami, they put up a really good fight, especially given that Wildcard had all of the info on Okami versus Okami having none on Wildcard for Oregon. Still brought it to a 7-5. So I think there's a lot of good signs for Okami in particular going into playoffs.
Certainly something to hold strong as we move along. Talking about moving along, Knights is the next matchup. We've got Knights and Rhythm to be exact. We'll have a look at the rights, the players on the Knights. There we go. We got there in the end. And I think that this squad, to be honest, has done an incredible job this season, Raven.
They have. They've really started strong out of the gates. It's just only recently started to look a little more shaky. But in particular, their new pickup for this season, Sage, replacing Strider, who was a very instrumental player in their success in last August Major. Sage has really filled the shoes of Strider well. He has been a sharp player and dangerous to look out for, I tell you what. And Josh combining as well. He's been having a really good season for the Knights. So if they are up and firing, they are dangerous.
They certainly are. One team that we've actually come to know and love in this season has definitely been Rhythm. When they're on all cylinders, I promise you right now, they are a dangerous squad to be reckoned with. Leb, Boats, Novax, Drex, and Bouncin. Now, Bouncin obviously gets a lot of love, but we were saying earlier, Raven, how when Bouncin seems to be on the team for Rhythm, as he had been subbed out in the second play week, he just seems to have this effect. It's almost like a vibe for the team.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something that goes on in comms or just in the dynamic of the team that we don't realize. But Bouncin in the roster seems to really activate Rhythm. They have had some great matches with him in the roster. Of course, they had that overtime game with Wildcard. They had the overtime game with Knights. It's just close, but not close enough for Rhythm. And right now they're facing relegations.
Yep, they are. They are staring right down the barrel at relegations, which, to be honest, we did somewhat expect coming into this season, but there is still a chance. There is a world in which they can get out, but we do have to start going through the vetoes, Raven. Any thoughts as we get through this one?
I'm thinking that Rhythm is going to want to take Knights to maybe a more open to stabilized map. Coastline, I think, would be great between these two teams because I think they're both quite good at Coastline, and I think that could create a bit of an interesting dynamic. So it's the main one I'm expecting. Maybe Club or Cafe, though. We'll see.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Club and Cafe from both of these teams. Well, not so much Cafe from Rhythm. But anyway, let's have a look as we bring them up. Theme Park. No, Coastline. No one wants to take Rhythm to Coastline. I wonder why.
We got the Oregon again.
Okay, interesting. So we haven't seen Rhythm play Oregon so far this season. In fact, I will just completely preface this with we've only seen 2 maps from Rhythm this season, so which is both Coast and Club. So I am surprised and disappointed we aren't going to Clubhouse, but that's obviously a decision that has been made by Rhythm there. Any thoughts as to how this one's played out, Raven?
I think this is a little bit interesting. I'd say the fact that Rhythm led it all the way through means that they were probably expecting it to come out because the Knights have played it. Knights don't have the intel on Rhythm, so it's a reverse situation, I guess, of the first matchup with Okami and Wildcard. In that the Knights now, they're the ones that have played it. The intel is out there for their VODs, whereas Rhythm, they haven't. So the Knights being a pretty good VOD team, counter-stratting team, they just won't have that base to be able to deal with Rhythm. Last point on that, though, is that Knights banned Villa. That was their 2 options. So they decided to go to Oregon out of these last 2 maps.
Yeah. And potentially, I mean, would you say that Villa would have maybe played into Rhythm a little bit more?
I am actually not too sure on that, to be honest. Maybe. It's hard to say because, again, we haven't seen a whole lot out of Rhythm's map pool in general. Knights seem pretty decent on Villa, so I think either way it's probably favouring Knights to a degree just based on their strength. But the unknown factor with this map with Rhythm is probably a concern that the Knights are going to have to shoulder. But again,
Yep.
they decided to ultimately go for Oregon, so I feel like they're well aware of that situation.
Yeah, toe-to-toe in Oregon, and we'll have a look at the snowball predictions now as we're getting ready for this matchup. It is a clear consensus. I'm so sorry, Knights. I'm so sorry. We've done it to you again. This should
curse.
be... It is. It's just the classic curse it has been this entire season. But I really, really need to confirm here. This is for Knights to head to second place. If they make second place, they don't have to worry about quarterfinals. So this is a huge matchup for them. With all things being considered. And, you know, it is funny because on both sides of the spectrum, at completely opposite ends of the table, this is a match that both teams really want and for Rhythm need to win.
Yeah, it's a great point. It is a tale of both ends of the standings, but important in very different reasons. Rhythm fighting just to stay alive and potentially in the playoffs. Knights fighting to stay in that top two, which they've really backed themselves to be in from the start of the season. So big stakes here for both the teams.
Certainly are, and we've currently seen 2 losses on the back of Knights' season over the past 2 weeks in Wildcard and Okami. They will definitely want to be backing this one up against a Rhythm that has been in and out of form all season, but has looked so dangerous when given the opportunity. We head to Oregon for our second matchup of the night.
Let's see what the Knights have been able to change since we last saw it, and let's just see what Rhythm have up the sleeve because, again, they are the unknown right now. They've had strong performances against some of the top teams in this region. I said earlier, I accidentally said that they had an overtime match with Knights. Maybe that's a bit of foreshadowing. That might be right now, but what I meant was Noble. They had an overtime game with Noble, and they have it in them to compete with these teams, so there's definitely a concern there for the Knights.
I would go as far to say that Rhythm have kept it as closely contested in every match as nearly any team has. As I'm looking back at the score sheets, we've only seen a 7-3 loss against Okami and Ferox for Rhythm. The rest of them have been overtime or a 7-4 result against LFO. So this has got some serious potential here, and you know full well that Knights are aware of this.
Definitely are. Oh, I think the One My ban is a great ban here too, just because in the basement defense in particular, already very strong, held even stronger with the One My. Those magnets just can be such a pain to deal with, and with no Thatcher to clear them either, it's just going to take more effort, you know, to be able to get that map control.
Yep. Straight down to the basement, no messing about. We saw 2 very different styles of holds in the previous match with Okami and Wildcard. Okami going for a much more, what we would say, traditional hold on the site for this new rework anyway. And you were alluding to the fact that Wildcard were bringing a little bit of a juicier and potentially older strategy, Raven.
Attackers need to locate.
Yeah, it was like an adaptation of the older traditional strategy where you hold meeting and you castle off the double door into meeting and you maybe extend out through pantry into kitchen. It was very much like an old Oregon meta kind of strategy, but yeah, it looked like it worked out pretty well for Wildcard.
71% of the community believe this is a Knights match, and you would not be wrong in thinking so, but my God, I've said that a lot this season, and we've been proved wrong so many times. Don't forget, guys, you can have your say over at the Rainbow Six ANZ socials. And also, if you do want to get involved with the conversation, hashtag OCN is the best way of doing so. Then we can engage, we can see it. And I think that this one for Rhythm, we've seen these defensive halves really be quite a strong suit for most of the ANZ teams. So you have to believe that this is going to be a rather large emphasis starting out here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good comfort to be on, and Oregon does seem to swing this way. I would say the bans do help that, but that being said, without the Wamai, I think that will help speed things up a touch because you really don't have to deal with ADSs, for example, and then your projectiles are safe.
A little more shield defense, should you say, and with that Goyo as well. There's a lot for Knights to have to do to get through this one. Drex switches the smoke, going to be playing up close and personal. Okay, well, that's one way to start out the map. Goes for a very aggressive little peek around the corner, and Dino was almost waiting for that one, so that could have been devastating, but it's not. And Knights are very much taking their time with this, as we can see now Juicy just starting to open up that E hatch.
Yeah, I got some good control there in the meeting as well, so that's going to make it a little bit harder for the flank to come out. Putting a lot of pressure onto Drex, and they are actually just going to reinforce this off. There's a drone watching that, so 100% the Knights are aware they have control of that little corner in towards site, and they can push forward and control blue as well. It's just no Vakes at this player they have to be careful of. Bouncing also just going to get very aggressive right next to the stairs, and it's going to work out for him. He's going to get a pick onto Josh, and they're going to get another on the stairs here. This has worked out very well for Rhythm.
Bloody hell, that is Bouncing in a nutshell, isn't it? He just loves those kind of plays, and it is something that teams have to be aware of when you're playing this kind of a lineup. But Leb going down, that is the Maestro. I'll remind you, Hayward currently on the ground, and he's in Harry Potter, so they're going to have to go to pick him up if they want to. Hayward goes down, though, and at the moment, it is a 2 versus 3, unless Sage is able to be picked up.
Yeah, he's on the stairs too, so that's going to be a little bit easier to be protected by Rhythm. Novak's not tagged much by that frag grenade. He's playing, are we going to call this spot cutie? Because it really worked out well for Akami in the previous match. With 30 seconds now, though, Knights are stalled out, and Rhythm, they have some pretty good control.
Juicy goes down, and it looks like they're going to try to refrag here. It's Sage on the other side of things, and Novak's, well, he'll take 2 quick frags, as Dino now is left to pick up the scraps, and that is all he will be getting in the end, should be scraps. I mean, maybe if he gets that kill on the boats, we're on and we're running, but not to be, and that is a Rhythm round through and through, and a very confusing one to start out, Raven.
Yeah, it took a little bit of time to mount up there, but once the Knights got control of blue, they tried to be swift to take it. And what was surprising is the Kaid and the Jaeger. I can't remember who was on Kaid, Bouncing on the Jaeger. They just really, they pushed aggressive. That was like their signal. Oh, they've got blue, they're going to take it. Let's go deep. Here it is, Bouncing. He actually got one, and they were able to down the other player trying to take pillars. So that really set Rhythm up to be able to take this round. And then Novakes, of course, getting that swift little double there was really the nail in the coffin.
Defenders, protect
Well, in the coffin is probably the best way to have put that, as we now decide to move to dorms, and this is generally the rotation we've seen more often than not opting for anything tricky or sneaky in that. Most often we do see at least 1 or 2 players down in that vertical line, and generally with that C4 for that plant denial in games or wherever it may be placed, should Knights go for it. And we saw in the previous match, there were quite a few rounds where potentially they just opted not to deal with the vertical, and I think it was a 50-50 success rate on that, so it really does come down to the personal preference here, with Leb bringing that Valk as well, Raven, something we're seeing quite often.
Yeah, lots of Valk. Lots of Valk. So see how it does work out for Rhythm. I want to say too, just remind people about map 1 that we saw tonight from Wildcard Akami. Of course, Akami did go up 4-2 in the first half on defense. So I think it's definitely not a time to get too excited if we do see Rhythm go up 4-2 at least, depending on how the match is generally trending. But it is very much a map where you can come back in your second half on defense, no problem. It's just about staying in touch a bit with these attacks.
And that really does seem to be quite important, just keeping them within that grasp. Drex, what are you going for there, Drex? What are we looking for? No one in trophy at the moment, so no potential for a kill there. Bouncing as well, now coming back to rejoin the team, as that is 2 drones down for Knights, and it's also control of Armory for Bouncing for now, but they can isolate him there, so it's tit for tat, honestly.
Yeah, it is right now. The Knights just being very careful not to be surprised. And it's, again, something with bouncing you have to be careful of because he is just constantly moving. Here he goes. He's going to push down Armory Stairs. He's going to find an engagement with Josh in Classroom, who's completely unaware. Doesn't get the pick, though. And bouncing has been taken very low after the fact. So this has actually worked out quite well for the Knights. And they've actually found Novakes in a completely different engagement here. So looking pretty good for Knights. Lev fights back for Rhythm, trying to keep them in the map, or in the round, I should say. A bit early for that one. And here we go. Big push in the attic here, Manic.
Yeah, they're not shy of taking control whatsoever. Drex was on the line with a shotgun, which normally you would back him to win those engagements, but Knights just using utility to try and push him away. Really nice pre-fire spot, but it's going to be unbelievable from Hayward to open that up. Leb now, how large can he go? He is stuck in games, not even in games, he's stuck in closet. He will be able to at least tag one of the players up, but with that diffuser being stuck, there is little to no chance after the fact.
Definitely going to be tough on this retake. He's got 3 to find. He's going to try the C4 over the top in Attic. I think he got shot. That could have worked out so well for him. He's tagging them up, but he's not able to secure any headshots. And with 3 still alive on the 30 seconds here, Manic, it's going to be a very difficult retake for Lev to be able to execute. He's going to walk right into a crossfire right now. Still not able to secure one. Trades with Hayward to close it, but Knights, they get that round.
That they do, and I honestly think had that C4 not have been shot out, because there was no sound, he definitely detonated it, that could have been a great start for him in a 1 versus 3 to at least make it a little bit closer, but full props there to Nice. They just sit a little bit deeper once they've got that defuser in spot, and I mean, realistically, there's no need to peek that at that point. You're allowed plenty of time, 45 seconds you've got to deal with that diffuser, and no matter how good Leb is or how good he's played in the past, that is definitely a tall order. But interesting to note, we will be re-attempting Dorms.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that could have gone better. I mean, Bouncin had the opportunity to open that round up if he had hit a couple of his early peaks. And it's not to say that their strat should rely on him hitting those, because that is really not sustainable. But the round could have gone differently, at least off those variables in particular. What's really important right now, though, is that Rhythm do make this work. You can't rely on winning or having the advantage out of your defense half on Oregon if the only site you're successfully holding is Laundry. He needs to be holding at least Laundry and top floor. Third site, yeah, maybe a bit shaky, but if you can secure that 4-2 half, it's a good spot to be coming into your attacks.
It certainly is, and we've seen that multiple times. Any attacking side that can really take it, I think the prerequisite is 4-2 Raven, if I'm not mistaken. Realistically, that's what you're looking for in that attacking side. We have seen a couple of 3-3 halves on the back of a slip up from that defensive side, but still much left in the imagination and the eyes for Rhythm here. It is a very early start with Knights being able to grab that round back, and I'm sure something that Rhythm will want to correct. This is where things can get a little bit tricky. They definitely want to make sure they confirm this.
The thing about Bouncin as well is the more Knights become comfortable and read into the way he plays, I feel like he's going to get shut down more and more, especially if Rhythm have to repeat these bomb sites. So it's got to work early, in my opinion, if you're Bouncin. He has to make something happen in these first few rounds in particular. He just misses a great opportunity onto Josh outside the front door. He's not going to re-peek it, though. He's going to do the classic Bouncin thing and just go for a run.
Yep. Again, I would love to put like a GPS tracker on him in his matches and just see how much ground he actually covers, because he is outrageous when it comes down to it. Anyway, moving on to a lighter note for the Knights. They have opened up walk-in and into games. Plenty of control on the back of that as well. And a minute 35, making good time here for the Knights.
They are making good time. They are a team that has great time management and a bit of aggression behind them as well. Sometimes it's like they flick a switch and they just go. So it's very, very dangerous signs now for Rhythm, given that they've got this added control. They're putting so much pressure onto these players in the bedroom. Vertical play is going to be a very important saving factor, I think, for Rhythm in this round.
Vakes, I don't think knew that Juicy was able to spot the back of those legs, and he will make it down the hatch and be picked up once more. Boats and Drex just have to hold as potentially he either rotates. Look at this from Dino. Look how aggressive he is. He's already in on side. He'll find one. That will pretty much do it as Novakes does come back on the rotate after being picked back up, Raven. Ambitious there from Knights, and they're going to continue this ambitious run as they make their way into sight, but it's shut down promptly.
Yeah, again, it's the Knights. It's like they flick a switch, they decide they're going to go aggressive, and they just go. And that's what happened. They just wanted to push deep and secure something. But Rhythm have done a great job digging in and not allowing it to happen. It's all up to Josh, and he's not going to secure one. It's Sleb. He gets the round for Rhythm. They progress another round into their pocket.
That they do, and much more convincingly as well, you would have to say. I think it did definitely look like Knights were taking a firm grasp of the control on site, but you made a very key point there, Raven, which was that vertical control that I'm sure would have been a thorn in the side as you try to attack any site realistically, but especially in Dawn, we know how crucial that can be to deny a lot of those choke points, and with that, it does allow the side of them back down to the basement, which they seemed oh so successful with in the first round.
Yeah, and to bring it back as well, it's like we said, very important for Rhythm in their defense half to make sure they are winning both Laundry and that top 4 defense. So if they do back up this Laundry defense right now to put themselves up 3-1, we will get to see their third bomb site, one of the kitchen-based ones. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and see if they can get this round in particular. Knights have had a chance to look at it. They're a pretty good adapting team, so let's see what they've got to change to make it happen.
I definitely feel like Rhythm could really get off to a good start here, and you know, 2-1, sure. For me, it's more so the way that Rhythm play that I think has just caught so many teams off. You know, like, I mean, you just want to highlight someone. Bouncin is just the epitome of every attacking team ever, rather the thorn of every attacking team ever. Just consistently moving and never staying still. And you saw it in that first round as well, just re-aggressing the pillar after they'd taken blue control, something that you don't regularly see on that swing. But obviously, with that shield in place, it does give him a little bit more safety. And Drex taking down Dino, that was the peak he was looking for in the first round, Raven, and this time it comes to fruition.
So right, and not sure whether Knights maybe just didn't have a drone at the time or a little complacent, but that's a big pick because that ace forms a very important part of the hard breach strategy that the Knights are bringing right now. They have to rely on this Maverick for all other hard breach purposes. That's not going to be particularly comfortable or quick for that matter. Ace is very strong in that regard.
Oh.
They're going to reinforce Drex into this corner, and the Knights might not be ready for this.
Oh, that has to be the call. They would have called that he's been able to fall down. Drex could have absolutely broken Knights there. He obviously knew that Dino was down and there was no need to really try and contest that, and potentially he might be able to catch one out had he had looked to his left and found Josh. Whew. That's a completely different round altogether, but on the back of that, it now does give Knights an opportunity back into this one, Raven.
Yeah, that did work out well for the Knights, Josh being in that tight corner. He was the one at most at danger, but it's not a common spot for people to push maybe, so Drex just really tunneled in on those bunker players. But either way, it's a good start to the rounds. And again, it's like about setting the pace, but right now the Knights are trying to up the ante. They have pushed deep. They are very close to site now. Josh looking for an aggressive peek onto site. It's only Novakes tight in that corner. Bouncing is behind him, but he is low HP, and this pressure onto site is going to start to be very difficult for Rhythm.
And that's just the pick they were looking for in the favor of Knights. Novakes falls down, Boats is next, Bouncing, my goodness, Knights, what a shutout from them. It looked like Rhythm had everything they needed for that round down. The ace was out of the count so early on, and Drex, even with the confident peak in blue, just dismissed. And now I'm sure they will want to reattempt that. Adios,
yeah, maybe.
amigos.
Maybe, but they're gonna go to meeting hall and kitchen. They're really pulling out a pocket strat here, deciding not to repeat the laundry. They did get hard counted. I mean, the Knights played that very well. Drex was probably the key to that round for Rhythm. If he hadn't died when he did, I think that would have worked out a lot more because the Knights still wouldn't have had the blue control. If he got a pick there, obviously that would have been a different story again. One thing that concerned me is that he didn't get much backup, and I'm not sure, I don't remember seeing the outline, but I'm not sure whether they still had pillar control. Again, if they had been able to cover him from pillar or aggress and maybe even try a pinch, I might have been able to change that round, but hindsight's a great thing.
It certainly is. It really does give you 20/20 vision, and I do think on the back of that, I mean, the second he fell there, we did see I believe bouncing pretty much all the way back in laundry. So regardless of whether they do or don't, they have to move on here. A 2-2 start to Oregon is not something that really is bowing in favor of Rhythm here. And once again, I will just remind you the stakes for Rhythm. I mean, there has to be some pretty fortunate results tonight in that last matchup with Alifo and Ferox here. And you know, there is a world that Rhythm do make it through, but they just have, like, they've had such a great season in terms of their play style and how tightly they've contested teams, but time and time again, they just fall short. I will remind you, a 7-8 against Elevate, a 6-8 against Wildcard, and a 7-8 against Noble. Some serious teams from the ANZ region.
Yeah, they would be kicking themselves not converting any of those, but you're right, they've had a good season so far. So they don't want it to go out on a sour note here. They're trying to give themselves their best opportunity to stay in playoffs, and that means needing a victory. Now, a 2-2 in this situation of their defense half is not a great position to be in. So they really, really need to get this round. And oh my gosh, Hayward has just found a hole. He is in sight, and he has been traded at least. So that could have been a lot worse for Rhythm, but still not a great start given that was just the first minute.
Considering how low Novaix was and the fact that they're opening up meeting, that could have gone a very different way. Novaix will double up as he takes down. Oh, Juicy. No. That's not good. That is the Maverick, and of course, that wall was not completely open either. Ambitious C4 that takes down Sage. He's not out for the count. But wow, Novaix stepping up really large here in round number 5, Raven.
Yeah, really trying to equalize it. And actually, the Maverick did finish that bottom line just in the nick of time. So it can be soft breached open by the Knights. They're going to start progressing through Attic, though, and Leb is holding a nice pixel there in towards the position of Sage. Misses the shots, though. They're not really hard contesting that. They don't want to overextend to Leb. They're going to start to put the pressure back on to the meeting hall. Josh gets a good shot onto Novaix. He's finally shut down. 50 seconds, the Knights in a 3v3.
What a crazy round this has been. Trades left, right, and center. Leb, will he be air jabbed from that position? Just off to his right there.
Attackers recovered the bomb.
It's not going to reach him, and so he could do some serious damage if they're not careful here. Dino trying to fight on a tight angle there. It's bouncing of all players. They are now in there. Lev now going to be pushing aggressive to the Hatch Raven. He'll be taken down as well, and it's all left on the boats. It looks so good for Rhythm, and it's really snowballed out of control here. Knights will take the fifth round and a third round in their attacking half. These are not good signs for Rhythm.
I thought with Novaix's fight back that they've really had that one in the bag. Felt like Leb maybe played that too cautious. I think he could have posed more of a threat for Knights so that they didn't feel so comfortable to actually just fully push meeting and push the rear stage. And on top of that, he really did not think about the angle coming up through rear stage into the hatch. So he didn't have any effect at all in the end of that round. So that was a real unfortunate finish to it for Rhythm. They do find themselves down around 3.5 at best, which I think is not a great result, to be honest, for the Oregon defenses. It's going to give Knights a lot of confidence going into their half.
You would have to imagine that it would all but be a death sentence if they aren't able to secure a 3-3 half here. I don't want to, go writing them off too early, but I think the closest we've seen a game come is when it was 3-3, and we did go to overtime, but I think a 4-2 on the side for Rhythm is going to be incredibly difficult and a very tall order. Although it is, after all, Rhythm. So
You
never really count it. You never really count it out, do you?
5 seconds to go.
No, you don't. So it's definitely an option. See what they can pull out in this last laundry defense. We've highlighted the laundry defenses are some of the more important ones in Oregon. These are the ones that you have to be winning. So let's see what they've got. And see what adaptations they can make, because the Knights did adapt to the way that Rhythm held it way back at the start. And the Knights got a solid attack just in the previous round onto this site. So Drex, he is in this position again. Hard in the corner with the shield. What impact can he have this time?
That is really the question. In the previous, we were expecting so much. And burning through those ADSs nice and early there. Dino using those smokes to
The attacker's bomb diffuser has
give them a little bit of a better opportunity in displacing Drex, which at this point, I think they've been able to do. And there you go. I think Leb was looking to reinforce that wall, and it has been done. So Drex is back out of blue completely there. They've folded,
located a bomb.
and Knight with 2 minutes left have so much time to play with here. Oh, hang on. What are you doing?
Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Yes, quite the flank happening here as Dino just lost a lot of HP to a Goyo shield. In fact, now Haywood has been tagged and out of the game by Leb. This is quite the run from Noveix and Bouncin, and this is going to have to be well timed, because if the Knights see the gap on site, they could decide to go early. They are the kind of team that would do so. Also, they've got the Nomad, right? So these air jabs, they could reveal that something is happening.
That's just it, Raven. It has done. The alarm bells have rung, but a really nice trade from Bouncin, who sticks around for a moment longer. Sage start that encounter now. Knights are going for it. They've seen the play. They've seen what's trying to happen here. Josh is taking control of Pillar, and they've slowed it down with a minute left, and so too they should have. No need to rush at this point in time.
Attackers have dropped the bomb diffuser.
No, I definitely don't want to rush,
Attackers
because they
recovered the
could
bomb.
make the wrong decision, especially on a plant spot. But speaking of, Sage is going to start trying to attempt this plant. Rhythm need to try to deny this, but it's actually going to get confirmed here, Manic.
Defenders have eyes
Bouncin
on the
does
diffuser.
get a trade at least, leaving it all to Dino. Actually, he's down. This retake has been successful right now. I don't think they fully realize.
Oh, hang on. Surely not. Oh, I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed. I would have loved to have seen that come down to the wire. But really, really well done from Bouncing to bring Rhythm back into that one. The second he realizes that engagement up in kitchen is not really all that favorable, falls straight back to site and doubles up. So Knights, they were able to get that plant down, but afterwards just did not go favorably at all. A 3-3 half, as now we do see what the Knights have to bring.
Yeah, that's the danger thing, is that Rhythm now have to start to coordinate their attacks, and the Knights have proven on Oregon that their defenses are still pretty strong, have been described as one of the strongest defensive teams in the region, in fact, at the moment. That's definitely not a good thing for Rhythm to have in their forefront of the minds coming into this, but hey, I think for a team like Rhythm that is just fighting to get out of relegation zone right now, I don't think they're going to be in their heads that much. I think they're just going to just go all out, and we might see some really interesting little attacks on this half.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Reinforcements in place. Deploying ADS.
10 seconds left before insertion. 5 seconds to go. attackers are moving out to locate
Seeing
a
very
bomb
similar
and defuse
strats
it.
coming out as well, using the Goya, using the smoke and shield in this tight corner, becoming the common play. Something that the Knights do though is they like to play the shield very close to the wall. They like to play it really far back. Some teams prefer it to be deeper into the hallway or right at the corner, but no, it's the Knights that like to play it back here. And what they use are those Banshees as the baits. You have to clear those first. You can't just hard push and peek. And while you're trying to clear those, they'll really stall out. So it's a lot more about a stall here for the Knights and the way that they play it.
Sage will be supporting as well from Electric until at least that hatch is opened up. So you can imagine with Rhythm, they wouldn't be taking too long in doing so. Bouncing once again, always the spearhead of Rhythm, be it defense or on attack. He always seems to be the one that's trying to make the plays, open up the rounds, and looks like they will be putting a little bit of pressure down here just for now. 3 players now joined up and huddled at the back of blue.
Now, if there's a player that's going to decide to get a little aggressive and initiate here, it is going to be Bouncing. So he has pushed up deep, looking to aggress onto that shield. I guess they're just making sure no ADS is in the way. It was a Goya shield as well, so good clearance. They still have Banshees to worry about if they want to be able to push Juice's position. And here it is. He's going to start using those smokes just to make sure there isn't some really quick aggressive play. And these ADS is really saving him from seeing clear white right now.
More than happy to use those smoke babes early on here. He will spot that drone and just back away. Obviously, there was a potential for him to either peek or try and deny those Selma charges from going off, but the decision is opted not to. Bouncing, of course, going to be the first in for the engagement, and he is forced off of the angle and isolated from Noveix there, but doesn't seem to have had any effect just yet.
No, and there is another Banshee here that's going to be cleared by Bouncing, and this is probably the signal now for Dino, Juicy in fact, to either anchor in behind this shield or drop back. He is not pulling away. He wants to contest here. He's out of the smoke babes as well, I believe. So probably going to fight for this. 30 seconds to go. Knights are still holding some really solid positions on this defensive laundry.
It's going to be incredibly hard as Rhythm now try to get a little bit more aggressive. Bouncing still cautious of that player from behind, but there you go. Noveix going for that default plant just on the edge of E-room there. Nothing's come out to deny just yet, but Bouncing, he could go massive. Lebs supported at the very least. Noveix will stick it. Bouncing, he'll hit another headshot. Oh my God, Bouncing goes absolutely wild and tears apart Knights as they try to retake the site. What a play to ensure they take that first attacking side.
That was a huge play for Bouncing on that cover. The Knights just decided they've got to go to try and deny, but couldn't get past Bouncing. My word. Rhythm move up to 4-3 lead, and that starts to allay some of the question marks we might have had on these Rhythm attacks.
Just look at how clean this is. Oh, the spray control, the transfer. Give it to me, wowzers. Bouncing, you've got to be loving that as we head back down to basement again. I'm sure that Knights will figure out exactly what went wrong in that one. And look, we've said it before, Raven, if the linchpin of a round is a single player popping off, it's not always the best to rely on for obvious reasons.
No, it's not very sustainable. But there was a lot good about Rhythm's attack. I mean, they played the game in bunker and blue there to clear that utility and just try and get that map control. And eventually they got there, and it just helped that Bouncing, of course, he popped off, but he was an initiator. He pushed deep and he put the pressure on the Knights so they weren't comfortable to be able to deny. And the fact that Juicy also had to use all his smoke babes early meant that it had to be physical denial. So either C4s or absolute bullets to deny that plant. I think overall it worked out really well from Rhythm, and that looked scary for Sage.
Surely not. Surely not. That's all right. Just axe. Oh my God.
Oh no! He's been nerfed, Matic.
no, that's not the advantage you want to be giving to Knights. Of all players, you do not want falling down in... Oh, no, Drex. Oh, that's not a great situation. But they are going to have to work with this now. They are going to have to try and deal with what will be a 4 versus 5 for the entire round.
Yes. Not a great way to start at all. The man goes big and then he just gets TK'd right at the start of the next round. That's not great, but they have to move on. Can't let it hurt them too much. They started to form quite a different push to last time here. They're looking like they're going to try and take some freezer control and maybe work around a more laundry-oriented push based on where these drones are coming out.
Sora, I feel like laundry pushes a very few and far between with what we've seen from the ANZ region anyway, and its wildcard is probably one of the first times we've really seen a full commitment there, and it didn't really go that favourably for them. Obviously, Rhythm most likely will explode when the time comes to it, and you'd say they've done a pretty good job in opening everything up so far, Raven.
They have, but I'm just concerned they've lost their initiator, right? That was something that was just so good about that last round. Is even if Bouncer didn't get all those kills, just the energy to push forward and allow his team to feel like they're getting more and more control and help them with that confidence, that was significant enough. Of course, he got the kills as well. But without that, somebody else here for Rhythm is going to have to be that initiator. Somebody's going to have to be the first in.
Yep. Questions to be asked, answers to be given at this point. Drex looking for that pre-fire around the corner. He's not going to find anything. They are going to be met by 3 or 4 Knights players here, so this is not going to bode favourably at all for them. Novakes is going to get pushed away, but what a nade from Drex to open things up here, Raven.
Very good nade. 20 seconds. They've got some freezer control. Josh, though, he's tucked in this corner. Could be very detrimental to C4 if it hits. Big for the Knights. It doesn't hit, though. Gets aggressive, pushes around the corner into a concussion. Novakes has been down as Juicy finds Leb with only 8 seconds. It's all on the line for Rhythm. Drex tries to stick it, but no, the Knights shut him out. They answer back to draw up the round count. 5-5 here, Matic.
And you said it, Raven, so early on with Bounce and gone, it was going to be extremely hard to really spearhead an attack without the engagement that Bouncin brings, the power, the firepower that he has, especially playing, obviously, the operator on Ash, just such a great way to open up rounds. And unfortunately, really, that is a mighty big oversight in which they are now going to have to try and claw back from. How much it affected the result of the round, we will never know, but we will be heading to Dorm now in round number 9. 4 apiece, still very closely contested.
It is, and I said 5-5. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but it feels like that's the kind of thing we're trending towards. Is this trade of rounds that we've seen happening so much in OCN.
Yeah.
So let's see whether that does eventuate. We get to see the Knights now hold top floor. Of course, that was 2 rounds in a row of them going to Laundry because they did lose at first. Let's see what they've got up here and how Rhythm can bounce back because, like you said, bouncing that TK at the start of last round, there's a couple of ways that can really affect your team for obvious reasons, being they're not in that round, but also I don't know what kind of player Bouncing is like, but with that tilt in, did that create frustration within the team? Did it mess up their comms? It could have really had a lot of flow-on effects that we are yet to see.
And we saw how much that really Bouncing was dismissing the utility on the side of Knights, you know, using that, using Ash to pretty much just destroy the shields, the Banshees in blue, and it really did give them a very strong hold at the very least, and enabled them to put a little bit more pressure on that site. So, you know, there's so many factors that come into that, but I think the biggest one for me, obviously, is the fact that Bouncing had literally just come off a 4K in that round. You know, he went absolutely wild, and that's the kind of round that you as a player would want to be trying to, you know, just continue to take into the next round. Regardless, we will be breaking down this at 2 minutes 20. You can see Bouncing now getting ready to destroy any of that utility on the other side of Game's wall, and that they do.
Yeah, and Sage is here with the impact grenades, but he was not game at all to try impact trick. Had Bouncing below holding his angle. Maybe that was enough to scare him. Somebody else actually did it for him. Didn't see that, but there we go. That is only going to be a line of sight there for Rhythm. But either way, good control and pretty good time management and pace from Rhythm on their attacks in general. Novakes aggressively peeks Juicy. That's a big support player to take out in the Maestro. Much more of a late round operator that you want in your arsenal.
A great call as well, because I think he must have identified, oh wow, Sage, that's ambitious. Fair enough. Try to do something to get back into the round. Just touching on that Maestro kill, obviously, potentially was the player that did go for that impact trick and give his position away. So a really nice call from Novakes to hold that aggressive line and to give them that man advantage, but also the advantage of opening up Game's wall. As Dino, they do bounce back here, Knights, and they're not out just yet.
Bouncing just dodging a C4, but aggressive is Josh all the way through the breach. It's not being looked after. At least it's traded back by Boats. Does make it a 2 versus 3 in favor of Rhythm, but they've been tagged low. And Josh continues to extend. He's been downed now, so that does leave it all up to Hayward. He is in attic. He does find one. Does it make it a 1 versus 2? He's got 2 more to find.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Wonder how much intel he's going to have. Up on top of the game's table now. Bouncing will just be able to sit there and hold the line. Hayward can't get anything done. And Rhythm, they do continue on the round where they found 2 openings. So, tit for tat, Raven. We are going 5-4 in favor of Rhythm.
We are, and that does start to create some very interesting stories with that final matchup of the night being LFO and Ferox. I'm sure both teams are anxiously watching this game right now, just seeing who is going to lose. But with Rhythm getting closer and closer to match point, must be a bit scary. They still haven't been able to shake the Knights, though. Of course, it is only 5-4, so it's not like they're starting to run away with it. But they are holding their own on these attacks, and I honestly thought this is where we would see them struggle.
Yep. Really thought this is where Knights were going to dismantle them. They are bringing the Vigil instead of the Mute this time. So very curious to see what the Knights have up their sleeves. And just to add context, Raven, to your comment about the end of the night, if you weren't here in the pregame, probably don't know what we're talking about. Ferox and LFO have the end the last match of all Playdays. It's the last match of the regular season, and should Rhythm lose here, that match is purely the decider for who is playing in relegation and who is going to be progressing on to the OCM playoffs next weekend. So some serious consequences here. LFO are the team that are willing and begging Knights to win this game. And there is actually a world that if Rhythm do take this map, the rounds have to swing pretty horribly for Ferox, but they could still push out of the relegations as it stands. So there is a a varied mix of results that will come from the next 3 matches.
Yeah, as I said, all the matches tonight do have their own little stakes in it, some things on the line. So right now it is the Knights trying to secure a top 2 spot or be at their best opportunity to get a top 2 spot. And they are behind, so they need to start picking it up here. Josh on this Vigil, I think, is a great pick because you would expect Rhythm maybe aren't particularly advanced with drone play, and I mean this is quite the assumption here, but Rhythm as a roster, as this 5, do lack a little bit of experience. This is the only season they've played as this 5. Of course, they've had quite the shake-up since 6 Masters. So some of the finer details of coordination, such as droning and drone pushing in general, can be quite tricky, so Vigil can exploit that.
Well, they were going on an adventure, that's for sure. Sage going down early on in the piece here. They should be able to pick him up, but it is quite risky. It would completely take Juicy out of position. Talking about out of position, Dino just caught rotating back to site there. Not good at all for Knights here. Looming large is match point for Rhythm, and I cannot believe I'm saying it, Raven.
It feels like it's trending that way. Sage has just been too aggressive, and again, he's been picked off. Juicy, though, that's a very important pick here, aggressing in through to the bedroom, but it's read through beautifully by Leb. Means it's 2 versus 4 in favor of Rhythm. They still have a whole minute on this attack, so they're sitting pretty as Hayward goes down to bouncing. All on Josh right now.
Oh my word. All right. There is a chance. I'm not saying it's a big chance, but there is a chance. Josh is going to have to go absolutely nuclear here, and Bouncin will not let it happen. Rhythm are on match points. And Knights, you could not write this storyline right now. This shakes up everything for the rest of today. It also leaves, I will say this, it also leaves Noble with an incredible opportunity to take second place in the next matchup, should Rhythm convert here. So many ifs and buts, but this is where it comes down to the line. Knights will go and reattempt their basement defense, which they are currently 50% success rate in this matchup on.
I think Rhythm have been so efficient with a lot of the opening picks, and that's where some of these issues come from. It's not just simply that Rhythm are getting the frags. It's just that the Knights have identified that Rhythm are looking to play aggressive, right? There's no doubt Bouncin is looking for gunfights left, right, and center. If you give him a little gap to poke and try and get a pick, he's going to go for it. And so the Knights are trying to capitalize on that. They're trying to play a little different. They're trying to either flank or play aggressive into those peaks and get that opening frag themselves, but it's just not working out. And that is how you generally counter aggression, is you try to be aggressive as well. But it's just a matter of them, it's not working out. Those gambles aren't working, the risks aren't working, and that's how Rhythm are able to just get in control and generally stay in control. For example, Sage is 2-7, a very influential player for the Knights this season. And I feel like he's had the opening death a lot of these rounds. I haven't been keeping track of it, but it feels like it really has been quite a few, especially in the defense.
So potentially tightening that ship up, and you may be given an opportunity into this one, but I do feel like with all of this momentum that Rhythm are gaining right now, this is the game for them. They've had so many tight matches against the best teams in ANZ, and this could just top it off here against the Knights, which are currently sitting in 3rd position on the standings. Oh, what a shake-up this would be. I have no doubt Enigma and co are biting through their nails right now.
Definitely tense. The Knights are kind of feeling like second place might be slipping away for them, so they do need to pick it up, really bring it up against Rhythm right now. A team playing with a lot of confidence
Stay clear of the blast.
and comfortably on defense in the Laundry. Again, this site is very pivotal for winning Oregon in general. You need to be winning these Laundry defenses. We've highlighted it quite a lot, Manic, tonight, seeing as we've only seen Oregon so far. A lot of it on the back of Juicy in this position too. Very critical is to shut out the control of Blue.
They did, you would have to say they did an okay job of it last time.
Located a bomb.
In comes the opening to E-Room completely. So that player at Pillar has completely fallen away at this point. I see 4 on site here for Knights. There's the 5th, all the way over in Freeze Up. And dwindling away at this utility as Rhythm are getting a lot more aggressive now, Raven.
That's exactly it. They are just not afraid to just push and take the map control. They're not falling out at all. And Knights are essentially just letting them have it. I mean, they've stepped back all the way to Freezer. And here we go. Juicy trying to delay more and more in Blue here. He has pulled back and is going to reinforce this time. So he's not trapped, but Rhythm, again, they will just advance, take the map control. Novakes pushes straight to door of sight, takes out some of this utility, and in 30 seconds, they're able to set themselves up for what looks like might be the game-winning push
They have so much on right now. A 5 versus 5. Still the tiniest amount of util denial. It is going to be trades back and forth. Bouncing's still out on top here. That opening there is going to give them a great line of sight in. Bouncing will be able to execute. We've got just seconds away. He misses the C4. Josh, he's upstairs. He'll find one. Is that what Knights need right now? Yes, yes, it is. They will hold on, and we continue in this game. Rhythm are not able to convert the rounds.
They are not, so that means the Knights, they are 1 round away from pushing this to overtime. So do Rhythm have enough in the tank to just get it at 7-5, or are they going to have to go all the way to 8? Knights are going to go to kitchen and dining hall. Again, we have not seen them defend this yet, so Rhythm will have to deal with this one and done if they want to end this map right now.
We talk about it so often with the 20-second meta, Raven, and how little time that really does leave you to play with at the end. And obviously, it is for obvious reasons. There's so much utility you have to burn through on that defensive side, but you really thought that Rhythm had everything going in their favor. They had all of the lines that they needed to hold. I would love to know whether that Selma charge was purposefully left just in that single explosion rather than all 3, just to give them that headline. But my God, it was close. And had Josh not have been playing up in the heavens above, I dare give up in the thought of what could have been for the Knights and really what should have been for Rhythm. But regardless, we go
10 seconds to go.
once more, and Rhythm have played once again just not out of their mind, because to say out of their mind I think would be it would do disservice to how well Rhythm have really done this season. So I'm not even going to mention that. They have just played really well tonight.
Yeah, I think, like you said, here they are again, another close game against one of the top teams in the region. They have pushed almost all of these teams, I'd say, to either regulation or overtime. So right now, they need this victory more than ever. They need to actually convert this to a win, which they have struggled to do all season. So will this be their rounds? They are again progressing quite well. Their time management on these attacks has been pretty good, to be honest with you. They're starting to take this attic control, and they want to try and push out this Knight's vertical play, potentially so they can get a kitchen plant. Either way, this vertical control is quite important in general for this defense.
Yep. The investment here from Rhythm. We'll wait and see what they're willing to give and what they're willing to take at the same time. Drex being able to see that bouncing is sneaky, sneaky, sneaky beaky. My goodness. He loves this. A position that could completely rip apart the Knights, but no, an effective trade from Sage. That's Bouncing, who has been one of the best performing players for Rhythm off the board early here. Sage doubles up, Raven. You spoke about him earlier, and now he is lighting up right at a moment of need.
Yeah, it really needs to, because I think an Astra Maestro would have been actually a very good trade for the attack. But now that Sage has stepped up for the double, means the Knights have the man advantage, and they still have positional advantage of this top floor. Hayward is under quite a lot of pressure here in its dorms. With just under a minute to go, this is critical now for Rhythm. They need to clear Hayward out of here, whether it's by kill or push him down. 50 seconds.
Pushing it, they will. They cannot take him out. They will eventually trade it. But Drex and Boat is all that remains here. They've gone to 3 overtimes against some of the best teams in ANZ. Is this going to be a 4th, Raven?
25 seconds and we will know. Drex has decided to rotate over to Showers. It is very audible though, and Sage with a huge round gets the quad to finish it off. This is the Knights pushing it to overtime. It's not done yet.
Sage Sage. We talked about him in the pregame. We've spoken about him all season long. We had no idea what to expect coming in to Oceanic Nationals Stage 2. And he has absolutely delivered. And I'm sure along the way made plenty of fans and from this plenty of haters. And that is a great example of it. A shining reason as to how Knights are still in this match right now. A 4K to secure that round in dining, as now it is Rhythm that get to defend twice. They'll go to Laundry to begin with.
Now, something I just noticed, which could be very detrimental to this attack from the Knights, is that both Juicy and Dino got autoed. So Dino did not get to pick the ace, which they have leaned on very heavily for a lot of their attacks. That ace, very important for hard breaching. They've got the Maverick, but ace, very critical. Their Selmas are incredibly helpful, especially when attacking Laundry. Yeah,
I wonder what's going to happen at this point, because obviously, for those of you who don't know, hello, welcome back. It is a rehost, and I presume for what you're talking about there, Raven, and I think that 6-6, I mean, right on the stroke of overtime, do we need to rehost? And I'm looking back at these rounds, right? I'm looking back at my notes, and Rhythm have just really taken the fight to Knights, especially in that second half. So early on, they were putting the pressure on what is currently the third best team in the standings for Oceanic Nationals, and what we consider one of the best teams in ANZ. Rhythm have not been shy whatsoever in these fights.
No, they haven't. And we both said it, that their attacks is probably what would be Rhythm's undoing, or we just generally had questions about how they would be able to do their attacks on Oregon. But their attacks have probably looked better than their defenses, to be honest with you. Just the initiation that's come out of Bouncin and the follow-up. Even Leb has played quite aggressively and matched that pace, which is a very important part. You can have a great entry player that's initiating kills, but if no one's backing them up, they're just going to end up dying. It becomes a trade, and that's it. So it's been good teamwork from Rhythm to pull them through this game. And I mean, it's not completely unexpected, because like we've highlighted quite a few times, they've had a lot of matches just like this.
Yep, they certainly have. When you're looking back at their matches here, I'm just going to give you a quick little history lesson on what has been Oceanic Nationals for Rhythm. It started out with a 3-7 loss against Akami on Clubhouse, and that's where we go, okay, this is probably what we expected to see a little bit earlier. And then they go to overtime on Coastline against Elevate. And we're like, maybe Elevate just aren't off on the best start to their season. They lose that game. The next Playday, they go 6-8 against Wildcard on Coastline. They then continue this trend, bar Ferox. They beat LFO 7-4 and then go overtime against Noble on Clubhouse and lose that as well. Rhythm could well and truly be on the standings in the top 4, if not top 2 teams, with how close these games have been.
Yeah, look, it's a great picture. Just in a matter of 1 to 2 rounds in almost all of their games, like you said, they could be in the completely opposite end of the standings. And I think they can at the very least, take that as a positive for this season, because let's bring it back a step. Six Masters, they were Kanga Esports. They had a slightly different roster. They could not find a win for the life of them. They had a few overtime games as well, but generally that was just not that competitive, and they really, really struggled. So that's why we had generally written them off coming into Oceanic Nationals, but the improvements have been tremendous. And I would say they probably deserve to not be in relegations because of these close scorelines. But at the end of the day, you don't get the win, you don't get the win. That's just how it works. So here they are. They're giving themselves a great opportunity to right that a little bit. If they get this win, they're still with a chance to avoid those relegations.
And on the opposite side of the spectrum there with Knights, they've really come back in these last 2 rounds. I was really starting to get worried on that the dorm defense, as Rhythm just continued to press and press and press. But the fact that they've kind of calmed back down and brought this back to now a point where they can end up second in the standings is by no means a small feat, and could really set them up for a really deep playoffs run. I mean, they start in the semifinals, so that kind of gives you a look at what the Knights have really been able to achieve in these past 2 rounds. But like you're saying, Raven, it is really hard. I'm just going to like kind of take the scope back a little bit and look at the wider spectrum of the entire OCN, like what has been our play days. And you look at Rhythm and you say, geez, they've been unlucky. Geez, they've had some close matches. And then you look at the likes of LFO and Ferox, who are down the bottom of the table as well, and they are equally the same. They are literally in the exact same position with having so many close matches and so many points where they could have won the match. And unfortunately, this is where we lead to. It is just the nature of the beast. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. A very quick rehost at that. They didn't want to keep you waiting. Into overtime we go, and Knights on the defense.
Yes, I believe that's what the rehost was for. By the looks of things, at least, is that the sides just went correct for overtime. So quickly fix that up, and we're back in. Knights getting to start on defense. But hey, we've seen 2 3-3 halves, so I'm not too fussed about either of these the side startings. I think it's been an even match so far, so I wouldn't expect otherwise to be in overtime.
No, not at all. And I think that, like, obviously we do have to make the comment that, you know, the defensive side should well and truly be favored in this. And so that's why right before the rehost, I was excited, I'll say that, to see Rhythm on the defensive side. But the fact that we are going to be seeing at least, you know, Knights on the defense, and then potentially in that last round we will be reattempting. I think that kind of brings things a little bit more of an uphill battle for Rhythm by all means. And all of that aside, now this does come down to really just these last rounds, Raven. It comes down to the small fights, the smallest of margins, the 1%ers, and there is a great for Rhythm to at least give themselves a shot at a relegation. I'm saying it's a long shot at that. I don't know whether it's possible, but it is a long shot.
Yeah, it does get a bit mathematical. So if it comes to it, we'll save that a little bit for later confirmation. But if I'm Rhythm, they've attacked this site pretty well. The times that they attacked it, honestly, like even the time they lost it, it came down to Josh hitting a nice flank vertically in meeting. If he hadn't got that out when he did, or if that was just unsuccessful in general, I think Rhythm would have won that attack last time. So they're definitely adept at attacking this, and that's a concern for Knights. It's really, I'd say, more pressure onto Knights back right now to really get these defenses to stand up.
Yeah. It's a great point you make there with that flank from Josh, because that really could have been a decisive round and should have been the game in the bag. Hayward at the moment, look at this over on the staircase. Leb, is he going to expect this? He's droning out. Oh, Leb, they brush shoulders. Does he get away? Only just. How on earth has that not ended in an encounter that opens the game up?
Oh, and right now they've burned drones into bunker, so they're just focusing on Juicy. I don't think they realized that Hayward has pushed so close to this corner. This could be incredibly detrimental. No, here comes a ping. Seems very aware. Hayward's coughing in the smoke. It gives him away. I'm sure that's what the sound cue was. So that's worked out for Rhythm in the end. Sage got tagged up a little bit as well. Time not quite as efficient, but 40 seconds. Rhythm are poised here.
Juicy's still just holding out in blue there. You can see he's just pulled away on the X-ray of the screen on the left there. Up comes the reinforcement. No more smoke babes. That is a very big point to make. How much denial do Knights have as we come into the last 25 seconds? Raven, this is such an important fight that Knights need to win. Yes,
20 seconds. They need to hold on. Rhythm in great positions to lock down the Knights on the retake though, so the plant is going to have to be attempted. Novakes with the kit. He gets team killed by a bounce, and the hero of the play maybe ends it for Rhythm. They're going to try and fight back. They push through the site, but Knights, they're holding the right angles. It's all onto boats, but as timer expires, the Knights are the ones that prevail. They move forward to a match point now, 7-6.
Whoa, my oh my. That is a second team kill for Rhythm. And regardless, maybe it didn't have a massive impact on the end of the round, but you could only imagine that extra gunfight, that extra crosshair that is needing to be dealt with by Knights potentially turns the tides of that fight, and it is just in all sorts tatters now as we head to the basement defense for Rhythm. This could be it. Knights staring toe to toe with Rhythm, with second place on the line at this point.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Potentially all that's left in this match is 3.5 minutes, Raven.
Rhythm got to dig deep on these defenses. Of course, it was a 3-3 half, like we said, for the first two halves. So this could go either way. Rhythm looked a little sketchy on some of these basement defenses, but in the end, it probably is the most comfortable bomb site. So let's see what they've got. Drex in particular, very important on the smoke, playing that extension in towards blue. As we've seen time and time again, it is such a critical part
5 seconds left.
of holding this site.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Well, I think we're going to be going deep into the night once again, Raven. A 7-5 finish in the first match, and now we could potentially be looking at an 8-7 match for the Knights and Rhythm game, and I'm sure it's only going to get more intense, even closer as we get through the night. And then this is the round that we are begging for them to take. This is what we expect from them at this point. Defensive side of basement, as you were saying. It really does come down to it with a 3-3 half on either side. There is no telling what this last round or potential last round will give.
Not much of a change here from Knights either on this attack approach. They're going to be taking the rear tower with the stairs in towards pillar. And of course, they are trying to clear out this bunker position. So it's pretty much exactly business as usual for Knights. Rhythm should be aware of how that works. Last time we saw a big flank coming out from Noveix and Bouncin, I believe it was. And right now, they're both still firmly on side. Of course, only over a minute played. There's still ample opportunity and time to do something about that. Juicy is going to be opening this hatch, which has become a very important part also, both for the attack and defense, on the way that this site has swung in the result.
You would imagine this time Sage won't be taking any chances and will likely drop an air jab anywhere near it. Noveix taking down Josh. An aggressive C4 that will give the advantage to Rhythm.
Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Out comes the Selma charge. Oh, Dino whiskers wide of it. They haven't been able to get that shield. And on that, my word, Noveix was doing a lot of damage there. Juicy catching Drex. Raven, it's just turned the tides.
It has. Maybe Rhythm just stalled a bit too much in retreating there, or baiting too much into that change-up. Bouncing trying to contest a Dino tag to 1 HP, but it's the Knights pushing forward. It's starting to be a 2 versus 2. Here it is. 45 seconds, Matic. This could be Rhythm season. This could be Knights in second place as the plant starts to go down.
Watching the cross, they don't allow the support. Bouncing falls down. Haywood, they've left plenty of time to make this work. And Haywood, he expects boats in the tight corner of Freezer. That will secure Knights second place in the Oceanic Nationals. And what a tight game. What a performance from both of these teams. And it's only fitting that it's finished in overtime.
It is, but it feels bad for Rhythm. Another overtime loss to what looks like is going to be a top 2 team, or just in general a top contesting team. Felt close to them, but the Knights too strong in the end. It was a great tug of war, but had to go somewhere, and it was the Knights.
That it was, and I mean, 4 rounds straight from the Knights. That's all it needs to be said at the end of the day. They went 4 rounds straight at the end of the match. Big time players, and they've put themselves in a big position heading into playoffs next weekend. And with that, Raven, the last game's left wide open.
It is. I am really excited now for that last game. Of course, we have another game before that, but just to preface it for everybody, it does mean basically the winner of the last game will make it into playoffs. at a
Yep.
simple form. Incredibly exciting to get into that matchup, and it's going to be a great way to be able to close out the regular season.
It certainly will be. I couldn't have asked for any better ending to it, especially at the last match. That is going to be an incredible performance from the team of Rhythm. We're going to be listening, or not listening, we're going to be talking to Yoshi as we have him on the line. Very quick interviews tonight. And Yoshi, 4 overtimes. I could not imagine what is going on in your heart right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we just don't know how to close it out, do we? It sucks, to be honest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, look, it's rough. You guys have had, honestly, I would say you guys have had a great season. Like, I know it probably doesn't feel like it because you haven't got the wins, but just so many close games against top teams. That's already a bit of an achievement. Let's dive into this match, though. Of course, you took the Knights to Oregon. It's not something we've seen from you guys yet, so we'd love to hear the thought process behind going to Oregon for tonight.
Well, I think the boys just wanted to play a map other than Coastline and Clubhouse, so we banned Clubhouse ourselves, and then I believe Knights banned Coastline. So we were like, oh, thank God, we can do something else. So it was good to show up on Oregon to some extent and kind of show people that we're not just Clubhouse and Coastline orientated. We can play most maps. So yeah, it was good to play a different map. That's pretty much it, even though we lost.
Yeah, just very quickly before we do let you go and rejoin your team, I would like to know what the comms are like, because you guys were up 6-4 at one point and on match point for those last 2 rounds. What is going through the heads of the players and yourself when we're coming into those final 2 rounds?
Honestly, like the early game and the mid game is really good in those last 2 rounds. It just comes down to that late game. Like we have, obviously, as teams do, have your executes, and it's just that one person that's kind of missing a step in that last execute, and we just the attack collapses because of that, or the defense collapses because of that, and that's pretty much just it. So it's just a really small mistake, and Knights, being the team that they are, just capitalize on it very easily. So yeah, well, I am disheartened to say that you are now going to be fighting your way out of relegation in the relegation playoffs later in, I think it's in a couple of weeks or months' time. So we do wish you the very best of luck there, Yoshi. And I must say, mate, what an incredible season you guys have had. Yeah, thanks, gents. Hopefully we'll be back.
No doubt you'll be back on the on what has been just a really, really great season. I mean, you just look back and wonder what could have been for the entirety of Rhythm.
It's exactly that, and like it feels weird to say, right? Like, this is a team that's just gone into like they have booked their spot in relegations, which isn't a great thing, by the way.
No.
But we just keep saying they've had a good season, and it's true. Like, as I was saying in that rehost, compared to Six Masters, this is a completely different roster. They have made huge improvements and gone toe-to-toe with all of the better teams in Oceanic Nationals, if you want to call it that, as in better teams. So, look, I think there's a lot that they can be proud of, and if anything, they should just hold a lot of confidence going into that promo relegations tournament. That I'm confident too, that I think they'll be back.
I do as well. You know, we look at how they've been performing this season, and you can even put that aside and just look at players and, you know, the mindset from Yoshi. And it is, you know, that there is a real sense of urgency from them. They understand what's happening in these matches, and whether they need to try and fix that with, you know, whatever it may be, whatever the decisions may be, you know that they've got the time to go away, look at this and rethink how their season's gone, because I know they're disappointed. You could not be disappointed. You could not be disappointed. You had 4 of the closest matches we've had the entire game. So I think that's very unfortunate that they have finished that way. But what is not unfortunate is the performance that Knights were able to pull out. We've got Dino ready on the line. Congratulations, Dino. I don't need to say it enough. That does secure you the second place, the second seed in the Oceanic Nationals, which means great things for the playoffs. But first and foremost, You were down 4-6 at one stage in that game, and we thought that second half was going to be a run over from you guys. Was there anything particularly going wrong in that instance?
We had a lot of issues with our roam up top, like the site hold. So we said, let's just not go there again. We'll just focus on shower hold and below hold. And we were able to get the last 2 rounds, so the 5th and 6th round, to go overtime. And then once we went to overtime, we said, okay, we don't have to go there again. We'll just go below to close it out, and then try to win the attack round afterwards.
Yeah, look, great insight there, Dino. And something I'd just love to hear your overall thoughts on is that you guys started the season really strong. You looked like you were probably going to end up being a first-place team, but the second half of the season really saw some close results and losses that you or we weren't expecting either. So maybe just give us some insight. What are some of the things that you guys have struggled with in this second half that you're looking to fix going into playoffs?
I think our communication mid-round is suffering a little bit without Strider, because he used to be a lot of that mid-intel. The thing about our first games were they were a lot easier compared to versing Wildcard, Akami, etc. So with the first games, little mistakes can pass through, but against Wildcard Akami that can't happen. And with our intel being not the best it can be, we just lost a lot of that mid-round engagements, and we lost the game, unfortunately.
I think that's an absolute solid answer. That really gives us some good insight into what will be the playoffs, which are next weekend. Dino, we'd like to thank you very much for coming on and giving us that insight. We will see you then, and best of luck, mate.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Yep. Okay. Knights. Bang. Tick them off. Second seed, first seed, wild card, and now I think that on the back of that, you made a very good point, which is that things have started to, kind of crumble to the wayside toward the end of this season. Just to reiterate, a 2-7 loss against Wildcard, a 7-8 loss against Akami, and now just barely scraping by in an 8-6 victory against Rhythm. It doesn't look great heading into playoffs.
No, I mean, Dino still seem confident, and they put that down to just the caliber of their opponents, capitalizing on the mistakes that they were making. It's definitely true to an extent. That wildcard game in particular is probably the one that sticks in my head the most, because it's not that they were making, they were making lots of little mistakes, but they got stomped. Like you said, it was a 2-7.
Yeah.
So it's not the greatest form for them to bring into playoffs, but at the same time, they don't seem that phased, right? Dino did not seem worried about the team's performance or anything like that. In fact, he seemed quite confident. So the fact they've locked in a good seed position to start the playoffs in, I think they're going to be backing themselves to be reappearing again at the major.
Oh, without a doubt, and I think that they're just on the doorstep of that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is our second match of the night done and dusted. We are now going to be moving on to Noble and Elevate. But we're going to go to a short break. Don't go anywhere.